What's up, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla, SPY, and the overall markets. I want to talk about some very, very key levels to watch for as we're approaching tomorrow, and what's going on with all these different pieces of news that just came out. But just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000 or more, you're guaranteed 30. And they're all friends at the end of March, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, as far as the market is going, right now, we saw this very, very nice move that came out on NIO, pumping to about that 4.47 area, coming very close to filling this gap. But instead of continuing to hold up, we got this big rejection, and we ended up seeing NIO dip with Tesla coming right back down into the red. So NIO got this rejection. It was not able to hold above these levels. We were expecting a small push after the technicals we saw yesterday. We got the push, but the move just did not last. And after that, we got this big rejection. So for now, NIO is just in a range, and there's a little bit of weakness if we can't reclaim at least 4.22. So we've been going back and forth in these ranges for the last couple of months. There's a good chance it may continue to do this. So, in my opinion, I want to see NIO try to reclaim 4.22 and 4.3, this range right here, in order for us to turn back up. If we can't do that, if we push to this resistance and reject again, there's going to be a risk of us dipping to the lower fours all the way down to 4 flats again. So just keep that in mind, guys. There's a very strong support at 4 flat, which is where buyers are defending it, but the downtrend on NIO still remains, and we were not able to get a good break. What happened so far? So there was some news that came out that NIO's monthly deliveries did increase a lot, and there's been a lot of speculation about what this will lead to. There's been a lot of optimism amongst different investors who believe that there's going to be very, very nice growth for them to not only double their sales but improve their margins. But the concerns amongst these investors is the fact that there's currently price wars in China, and that's what's kind of like feeding into those margins. So in China, EVs could be produced for very, very cheap, and they're very affordable over there. For a company like NIO, they're going to be performing on very, very tight margins. That's what makes things a little bit more difficult. So different analysts have been saying that this is the caution that's being added at least to NIO. The fact that that's going to lead to a delay in the time it takes for them to actually become profitable. So that's why they're getting delayed over and over again. And as time goes on, we will be looking for those improvements to be made. But that is what many different analysts have been saying, at least thus far. Now, on top of this, NIO has been tweeting about the EC7. It looks very, very awesome, especially in front of a barn in this video. It just goes to show how versatile they tend to be. However, as time goes on, I think that it just goes to show that these are going to be very popular in different regions throughout Europe, in the Middle East, and the list goes on. But for the shorter term, despite that, there is still some pain in the share price. I'm going to be very honest about that. Now, it's also worth noting that the registrations did go up a little bit during the third week in China. They're up about 86.7% from 1,500 units during the week before. So we do tend to get weaker numbers, at least to start off January. That's how things started off. Now the numbers are starting to improve a bit. And so far, in the first 3 weeks of January, NIO sold about 7,300 vehicles in China. We'll see how their sales improve for the final weeks to see if we get a big improvement. And we'll be watching to see how their sub-brands end up doing. So we'll see if that could help to offset this. We'll give that some time. I'm not seeing anything new in this data. There's no new major analyst changes in ratings. Price-price ratio is very flat. Down here is NIO showing some weakness. And in terms of seasonality, we tend to see more volatility on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. We're green about 55% of the time on Wednesdays, but then Thursdays tend to cause some slowdowns. At 1 p.m. and also during the second to last hour of the day, we tend to see more volatility. Besides that, I'm not seeing anything else that's too crazy. Now, our economic calendar is showing us that there's not anything too significant coming out for tomorrow. We just have a couple of mortgage data. And then besides that, I'm not seeing anything else that's too crazy. And then I also want to add that as far as the market goes, we had Charles Schwab announce earnings. They did relatively well in the morning. And we just got Netflix and United. So just to be blunt, Netflix did very, very well. Good earnings. They saw revenue up 16%. They beat on EPS and revenue and they had good guidance. Not to mention they announced a $15 billion buyback, which is bullish news. That's why the share price is up. United Airlines also had strong quarterly revenue, good growth from them as well. Awesome to see that, and they're going to continue to see some more growth. Good EPS, if anything, above expectations. Net income surpassed the $1 billion mark, so not bad whatsoever. And overall, we're expecting decent guidance. they did increase their EPS expectations for 2025, and revenue is basically the same as before. So that's good news, good guidance, good earnings from United Airlines. That's why the share price is also in the green. So good earnings so far. We've been, hit with very, very nice earnings. The fear and greed index is currently at fear. That's making up the majority of sentiments. Momentum is at fear as well. There's still some fear present in this market, but we're getting closer to neutral. We're seeing a lot of these puts being closed as the ratio is starting to dip right here. There's more call buying that's trying to enter this market as buyers are defending, and the VIX is rejecting, losing its 50 daily moving average, which tends to be a bearish sign, which suggests that the market has upside potential. So as far as NIO goes, unfortunately, for the shorter term, I'm not really seeing anything too significant with the share price unless we could try to reclaim at least 4.3. Otherwise, we are favoring a rejection. Tomorrow morning, look for a bounce in the morning. It's about that 4.3 area. We'll see if it can hold above it to bounce or not. If we can't, we might be dipping. Looking at this reversal chart and what we're seeing on the 4-hour and the fact that there's low volume, makes me think that this may pump it, but then come back down to the lower force to continue to dip. Unfortunately, the move that it was trying to make to go higher is failing, so I am seeing a little bit of weakness on NIO stock. It's not the end of the world, though. We'll just have to give this more time to develop. As far as Tesla goes, we're holding this trend line very nicely, so very close to this 413 area. As long as we hold around 413.5, this could continue to uptrend and try to bounce, make a full recovery. If we lose 413, this could be dumping a lot more. Tesla was actually only down 0.5%, so despite the dip that came earlier because of some new EV mandate changes that were coming out under the next administration, there's still buyers defending despite that. So that's a good sign that Tesla could dip a little bit and try to bounce back up and eventually try to reclaim 430. It's still bullish as long as we don't lose 413. Nvidia is looking more bullish. It's looking more bullish with an inverse head and shoulder setup. If we were to lose 140, we could be dipping back down to 137. As long as we hold above support, we could be looking for an attempt for 146. I think the chart is favoring 145 to 146 as our targets. Looking a bit more bullish with a nice accumulation right here. We're in a giant range going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So that's all we're doing. So this still has upside potential. Just keep that in mind. For Bitcoin, we're forming a nice cup right here. We have to see if we can try to break 108,000 to continue to push. If we lose 104,000, we could be jumping to 102,000, so we'll just have to see how things go. But the 4-hour does look a bit more bullish for 108,000 plus. So I see potential in this nonetheless, so we'll give this some more time to develop. For SPY, we're looking very bullish right now. We're looking for 605, then all-time highs as our targets. There's no sign of this rejecting it, so it is favoring it. It wants to go up towards all-time highs. Just keep that in mind. QQQ is also pushing. It's going to be trying to target 527.5. If we break that, we're looking for a move to about 530, but I'd be careful at this resistance. So it might push a little bit more to 527.5 or above, and we'll see if we reject or not. For the Russell 2000, we're looking bullish. We have this essential 230 resistance right over here. We'll have to see if we can break past that or not. And the support to watch for is going to be at 227. If that fills us, we have a gap to fill back down to 225. So give this time to develop, but just know we still remain a bit more bullish. For ES, we're looking for essentially 6100 plus as our resistance. We'll see if we can break that to pump even more. So I see that this is looking a bit more bullish. For NQ, we look a bit more bullish. We have a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure. If we were to lose 21,550, this is going to be dipping lower. But I think this is favoring a push even higher towards 21,875. So if you favor upside, give this more time to develop, and I think we're doing a fantastic job. For other factors out there, we have Nvda. Nvda is doing a good job. Like I said, it might be trying to push for the 145s. It's looking more bullish. Let me just go over a few more. We have Netflix, which is pumping right now in the after hours. It is up 14%, hitting the $1,000 target. Absolutely insane. Good earnings from them with the big buyback. So great news for Netflix. For Coin, we have a nice double bottom bullish divergence here. As long as we don't lose 282, we do favor a push for essentially this 308 plus area. So we're looking quite strong. Amazon's looking so-so. This, excuse me, we need to try to hold above 230. We'll see if we can break that or not. It's just shuffling up here. There could be a retest of 228 if that ends up rejecting, but I'm hoping that this forms a nice accumulation with the double bottom and eventually tries to push up for essentially 232. So it could be a dip here in a balance. We'll have to see if we can try to hold above 230, and that's going to be looking pretty good. For Meta has a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure. If we could try to hold above 612, we're looking for an attempt to get back up to 625 plus, so give this some time. For Microsoft, we look a bit more bullish. We have a nice accumulation right over here, a nice double bottom. If we were to lose 428, we could be dipping lower, and as long as we hold above our main support at 430, we could be pushing for 440. So I see potential in Microsoft to try to push higher, closer to 440. So give this some time. And then as far as Google goes, we need to try to break back above 200 to remain bullish. To me, it looks like it's going to be dipping to 196.5. We'll see if it bounces off that or not. It's still in a range. It's going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So it might dip a little bit more for about 196.5, and we'll see if we bounce off that or not. But with that being said, guys, the majority of stocks are still looking a bit more bullish with some exceptions. But just know that as far as NIO goes, unfortunately, there's a little bit of weakness because it's been dipping. Oh, I forgot to mention Aapl. Let me talk about Aapl and I'll talk about NIO. Apple is still showing weakness because of bad news involving their Chinese sales and also because of a price downgrade from JP Morgan. So there's a bit of a downtrend on Apple. We need to try to base at 220 to get a rebound back up to 225. We got to hold 220. This is a nice buying opportunity. It's actually very undervalued compared to where its all-time high has been. So that's actually a good price. We'll have to see if we can hold this support and we'll see if we get a bounce or not. But anyways, going back to NIO, like I said before, there's weakness. We're continuing to reject, and reject. I would have liked to see it hold at least above 4.3, but we're showing some weakness. Might try to retest tomorrow morning if we reject it, and then we could continue to fall back down to lower fours, all the way down to 4 flats. So be careful as that downtrend could be remaining. With that being said, guys, I thank you all so much for listening. I hope you guys have a great day, and I just thank you all so much for your attention. I'll be back with another upload tomorrow, but just know that there's still a little bit of weakness for NIO for now. One thing I understand is that NIO is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not going to just run immediately. We have a lot of really good opportunities, though, and this is not financial advice when I say this, but from the way I see this, okay, they may hold it below, at these low levels for a long time, for months to come. If they want to do that, okay, that gives us more time to buy these dips, because if you start to accumulate thousands of these NIO shares for cheap prices, the time will eventually come for the share price to start running. It's going to run as they get to profitability, as we see a lot of growth in their different sectors, and as we start to see investors get very hyped. So my question is, do you want to start buying this thing when it starts running to the 10s, the 20s, the 15s? Do you want to start buying then when it starts running, or do you want to buy during the lows when you have the opportunity to get good prices before it starts running? That's the big question I want to just put out there. That's your choice, guys. You guys can do whatever you want, but I'm just trying to put it out there that this is another opportunity for the long term. So with that being said, I thank you for listening. I'll be back with another upload tomorrow. Until then, have a good day and peace out.